The Super Mario Bros. Movie 2023 by Illumination and Nintendo has probably generated more buzz and conversation than any movie most critics have given like a 5 out of 10. And I know for me personally, there was a lot riding on this movie. For all 2 people who sat down and watched my one and only game review, I have more planned, I promise. One of those 2 people who watched it was Council of Geeks, so I'm low-key famous now, no big deal.
Among Us.
You'll know that I'm a huge Mario fanboy. Some of my earliest consoles were the DS and the Wii, and I've consumed every scrap of Mario game goodness, old and new titles, ever since then. Some of my brightest and happiest memories have been with these games. When it comes to my childhood nostalgia, Mario games are synonymous with it, and even to this day, I'm still playing these games as they come out and having a blast with them. I love this franchise, warts and all. Its highs, its lows, its games, its characters, its world, the works. It all means the world to me. Which meant that, yeah, even after we found out that Illumination Studios were doing the movie, even after we initially saw that casting list, killing my hype was fucking impossible. I honestly don't think anything could have done it, bar maybe J.K. Rowling working on the movie or something. Trans rights are human rights, Mario would agree. Actually, if anything, the casting list got me more excited, but for different reasons. There were legitimate things to be excited about. For instance, Charlie Day as Luigi immediately set off me and my partner, both of us being massive Always Sunny fans. We actually went to the Always Sunny podcast live show in London, which was fucking amazing, by the way. Always Sunny video soon? Maybe. And the idea of Charlie playing Luigi actually sounded like it could be perfect. And to be honest, Jack Black playing Bowser sounded like it was going to be perfect from day one. But after the cast list came out, my excitement was still there, but it had kind of shifted a little bit. I started expecting one of the legendary, fabled, funny bad movies. Is it funny bad or fun bad? It's one of those. A movie that completely falls apart under scrutiny and is terrible by every objective measure, but manages to be so terrible that it's entertaining as fuck. That's what I started expecting. For reference, I guess the closest thing Illumination has would be the Lorax. I know that has a little bit of a fun bad following. And the original Super Mario Bros. Movie from 1993 has similar. But then the same thing happened as happened to literally everyone else. Like, actually, this experience is so universally shared, I probably don't even need this intro, to be honest. I could probably cut it out. The trailers come out, and what's this? It actually looks good? It looks hype as fuck, actually. What? Basically, the hype train was pulling into the station, and no amount of engineering works by London Northwestern between Rugby and Coventry could stop this fucking thing.
May I have your attention, please, on platform 6. We are sorry to announce that the 1347 London North Western Railway service to Birmingham New Street has been cancelled.
This is because of a broken down train.
Oh, thank God. Fast forward till now, as of writing this, after having seen the film a few days ago, I've had time to just gather my thoughts, let the film marinate in its own juices for a bit. Those juices being millions and millions and fucking millions of dollars. And what do I think of it? Well, it's complicated. And before I get into this, I'm essentially going to be parroting what I said about the movie on Twitter, and if you'd like to hear more of me talking about inane shit, mostly Doctor Who, but occasionally the odd Mario movie that comes out, follow me on that. I'm talking about inane, vapid bullshit over there pretty much all the time. So I'll just start off by getting this out of the way. I did enjoy the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I had a good time with it, and I probably sound kind of insincere right now, but trust me. Like I say, Mario fanboy here. Literally an autistic Mario fanboy. Mario being one of my earliest special interests / obsessions that still sticks with me to this day. I was, honest to God, a 22-year-old man just sat there in the theater, gorging myself on popcorn and magic stars, just gawking up at all the cool Mario-related visuals on the screen. But the thing about the Mario movie itself is it's fine. It's perfectly fine. It's very obvious that Miyamoto wanted this movie to really capture the essence of booting up a new Mario game for the first time as a new player and trying to get good at working through the levels and exploring Mario's world for the first time, and he definitely succeeded at that. The movie does capture that feeling perfectly, in plot and in visuals. And obviously, this thing is absolutely dripping in references for the fans. Basically, every 2 to 5 seconds, I was going full autism mode and cataloguing every visual and audio reference in my brain and matching it to its source. Like, okay, we've introduced Toad, and yes, the music currently playing is the Toad Brigade theme, first introduced in Super Mario Galaxy. I've seen your motherfuckers reviewing this movie and calling it the Captain Toad theme from Super Mario 3D World, forgetting where it was first introduced, calling yourselves fans. Disgusting. And that was fun. Lots and lots of fun, lots of dopamine for my little neurodivergent brain. But the thing is, I can perfectly understand a lot of the criticism the movie received, because that stuff is kinda all the movie does, really. If we're being honest and realistic about this, beyond feeling like a Mario game brought to life and looking and sounding like one too, there really isn't all that much to this thing. And don't get me wrong, that's perfectly fine. This thing is fun. Sheer, silly fun for fans of this property, and if you are a fan, or even just someone who enjoys silly, dumb, fun shit, then you're gonna have a great time with this thing, as I did. But if you try and dig further beyond that, you're really not gonna find much, which is why I can understand where the critics are coming from. Like, guys, there's really no use getting mad at people who don't share your perspective, like, it's really not that deep. Like, for political stuff, I can understand. I mentioned in passing earlier how for some reason they're trying to take away the rights of our trans friends for some reason, but in terms of getting angry about a movie and the criticism it's getting, like, come on, guys. Come on. One criticism that's out there is how fast-paced this thing is, and oh yeah, this thing is lightning fast. But whether that's even a criticism at all, or even a point in its favor, is purely down to who you are. Clearly, for some people out there, this was a problem, making the film hard to follow, not giving time for certain things that could have done with being more fleshed out, and just straight up giving them fucking whiplash. Which, to be honest, I did start to feel a good way through. Yet for some, this was absolutely fine, and meant that the film could just put all its time into focusing on all the Mario-themed action and platforming and karting and fights and set pieces. And honestly, I'm leaning towards the latter. Like, yes, that is what I came to the film for, and if there were too many slow scenes of just building stuff up, it could have left the film feeling like it was lacking, so I am on board with that approach. But at the same time, I don't know, I feel like an extra 15 to 20 minutes to give the film a bit more room to breathe wouldn't have hurt, because we really are just hopping straight from one set piece to another at lightning fast speed, and I can see why for some people it was a bit much. And while I don't think many people really need the Mario world to be fleshed out more, like it's the Mario world, it just kind of is what it is. I feel like some things did kinda need it, like Mario and Donkey Kong's bond, which is absolutely not something I expected to be saying after this movie. If you haven't seen it, yeah, Mario and Donkey Kong are a thing. They start off feuding, but end up as like a buddy action duo towards the end. But the transition between those two phases is not earned or built up at all. One scene they hate each other, have one conversation about both their dads thinking they're fucking useless, and then the next scene they're all buddy-buddy. It's really not that big a deal at all, especially for something like the Super Mario Brothers movie. Like, it doesn't detract from the fun of the movie at all, it was just very jarring how sudden that change was. But other than that, the film didn't need to sink too much time into developing this world and adding context where it just wasn't needed. It instead just needed to embrace all the fun you can have with Mario's world, and it prioritized that, which was definitely the right move overall. The thing is though, that's not the be-all and end-all. You can have your cake and eat it too. You can have a movie that's just fun, and develop certain things that would just make the movie better. And that brings me to the next common criticism, which is the characters being really flat. But this is another one where I think this being a problem or not entirely depends on who you are and what you're looking for here. The fact is that the characters just are very flat, with what little development is there being just serviceable enough to lend some kind of sense of progression, but it's very bare bones and the plot is dead simple. And once again, plenty of people wouldn't have needed much more than this during a Mario movie for the reasons I've already mentioned, and that is perfectly okay. But I also just don't see why our characters being well developed and being well explored as they make their journeys through this bizarre magical landscape wouldn't have been a plus. The response I've mostly seen is that, well, it's a Mario movie, and the Mario games are all very light on plot and character. What else did you expect? And well, like I've said, I'm a big Mario fan myself. I'm perfectly fine with the movie being handled in a similar way to the games. I can still get plenty of enjoyment out of that, and I did. But I also just really can't get behind this argument that just because it's a Mario movie, it shouldn't be held to any of the same standards we hold other movies to. For one, movies and video games are very different mediums that work in very different ways. Video games depend almost entirely on how the player interacts with them and the choices they make and how they carve their own way through the experience. Excuse me. Yet in movies, the viewer plays a much more passive role, just observing all the action from the outside, and because of that, the movie has to do all the heavy lifting, guiding the viewer through a narrative that the player would normally be doing in a game, meaning there's much more incentive for the story and characters to actually be engaging. And don't get me wrong, I feel like I have to keep hammering this in to make it clear what I'm trying to say. I am a nerdy Mario fanboy. This did not bother me. My inner child was on cloud fucking 9 during this movie. Nerdgasm from beginning to end, and just absolutely elated at seeing this world that I grew up with and means the world to me, fully realized in all its glory on the big screen and adventuring through it. But I just can't act like I don't get where the critics are coming from. Also, the Mario games all being almost devoid of plot and character isn't even fully true. Like, what about the Mario and Luigi series, the early Paper Mario games? Really good, in-depth and intricate plots with genuine twists and turns in character development have been done in the Mario universe before and have been very effective and memorable. People sing the praises of the Thousand Year Door to this very day, this being one of the reasons why. So I honestly don't think it's unreasonable to expect that out of a Mario movie. But again, this is a film that was clearly aimed at families, taking their kids to go get a nice dopamine rush for an hour and a half, and of course for the hardcore fans with Terminal 7 brain rot like me to cream their pants out in the cinema. And with the references and nods every single second, the joy the film supplied by giving the soundtrack many leitmotifs from various Mario games that I could mindlessly name one by one in my head, and just the joy, like I said, of all these characters and this world being portrayed on the big screen with absolutely gorgeous animation, by the way. Like, this thing is stunning. Basically, it did its job. Is it a great movie? No, not by any means. Was it one of the most fun experiences I've had at the cinema in a long-ass time? Hell yeah, it was. Is there a very good reason for that, though? That being my almost deranged affinity for this franchise, being a biased fanboy? Well, yeah, but sometimes it's okay to have a film that, no, doesn't hold up to any scrutiny and is just straight up fun. And plenty of people clearly enjoyed it and it's making a shitload of cash, so it served its purpose. And as long as you had a good time with it, that's all that matters at the end of the day. I literally never do this, but for some reason at that point in my script, I've put a shrug emoji here. I literally never put emojis in my scripts. I do when typing messages sometimes. I literally have no idea why I put that there. So before I wrap this up, there's something I want to quickly talk about. This movie was fun, as I've said, and a very faithful adaptation of the Mario franchise onto the big screen, and it's a real good time. But we can still acknowledge that the over-corporatization of the movie industry that's taken hold over the last few decades is really snuffing out a lot of the love and passion that could be going into movies, right? Like, in the name of studios making sure that they make enough money off their projects, meaning that we'll never get faithful adaptations of popular IPs. By which I mean truly faithful. Like, don't get me wrong, this movie was very faithful, but I mean truly faithful. I'll explain what I mean. Take this movie as an example. If Nintendo wanted to make a movie about Mario's origin story, why did it have to be an adaptation done by a mainstream studio set in its own isolated universe with a celebrity voice cast and watered down and sanitized for a mainstream audience? Why couldn't we have had a 3D animated movie that details Mario's origin and journey to the Mushroom Kingdom with the game's cast set actually in the Mario universe at the start of the timeline in the signature Mario visual style? Like, you know, an actual Super Mario Bros. Movie. Rather than a heavily marketable mainstream take on the franchise that's based on the series but still very much its own thing rather than an actual official part of the franchise. Or take the Sonic movie. Why do we have to get a once again marketable, sanitized, mainstream Hollywood take on Sonic's origin that's just another in a long line of live-action animated hybrids doing the whole fictional character coming to our world shtick a la the Smurfs or Alvin and the Chipmunks, instead of an actual Sonic origin story actually set in Sonic's universe in the signature Sonic style with the game's cast, a proper actual Sonic movie? Well, we know why, because those aren't as marketable and don't have as much mainstream appeal, and what people buy tickets to dictates what gets made. Like, we all know why that's the case. But we still don't need to be afraid to admit that it's still a shame, right? No one's denying those reasons are true and there, but it's still just frustrating, you know? To be honest, I don't think it's even a stretch to think that a lot of people would still pay money to go and see these ideal versions of these movies. They're still franchises that a lot of people love, and that's why you make them origin stories, so they're still a good jumping on point. And with the current superhero-obsessed landscape, there's absolutely a place for characters like Mario and Sonic. I don't know, we kinda just have to accept that this is what movie adaptations of games and popular IPs are and look like now, and just appreciate that they can still be somewhat good. The Sonic movie still follows that lame and overdone sanitized formula, but at least it's still an effective and well done version of it, and with a sequel that embraces a lot more of the game's world. And the Mario movie is still a faithful and enjoyable adaptation, and I don't even have much more to say on this other than just, it is what it is. Your thoughts are your own. If you're happy with how things are at the moment, that's perfectly fine, and if you're not, also fine. Just, your thoughts are your own, you know? You're gonna think what you're gonna think about all this. I'm not even sure how to end this video, so I'm just gonna say that I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to drop a like if you wish. It really helps us small channels out, and so does commenting your thoughts down below, and please do. I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts on this, as Mario is a topic that I'm very passionate about and could honestly chat about all day. And if you want to see more from me, why not subscribe? I've got plenty more content coming your way, maybe not at the best pace, but I'm working on that, trust me. Stuff's still coming. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, all you beautiful people, however many of you there may be, and I will see you next time. Cheers!